All right, I have 6:30. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Start with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, we'll move on to item number 3, considerations.
I have a request to move up 12.1, 12.2, 12.3 to after the sheriff's update. These are residents here under the plan, they're from the planning development area, and they not have to wait through our agenda. And then also I'd like to change under number 8, it should be EDA update, not HRA.
I would also like to add 10.11, their old business for their discussion in the closed session, Tom's part. And then 10.12, discussion on possible closed sessions for old agreement discussions for schedule.
Okay.
So we keep 10.1 to 10.1.
10.11.
10:11 or 10:12 is what?
Just having a discussion on possible closed sessions to discuss old agreements.
Right. Any other additions or corrections? Hearing none, let's want to make a motion to approve the agenda. So moved. Motion by Dan, do I hear a second? Second. Dave, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, next we will move on to item number 4. This is public forum. Opportunity for citizens to present items to the council that are not on the agenda. Each presentation is limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 15 minutes set aside. If your item needs to follow up from city staff, that will arrange for that. If you're here to speak on behalf of public forum, please make your way to the podium, state your name and address, and
Good evening. My name is Amanda Stevenson, and I am not a resident of Pine City, but I did grow up here. And I currently live in Ogilvie, Minnesota. But I'm here representing the Pick 'em Up Coalition, and I'm just 2 gals as well. Go ahead, Brianne.
I'm Brianna McClellan. I live in Flora, Bickley.
I'm Deb Kenny. I live in Rock Creek, Pine County. Never for Lakes and Pines, and a part of the coalition as well.
So the Pick 'em Up Coalition is a regional coalition for Pine, Ixani, Chisago, Kanabec, and Mille Lacs counties. And our mission is to prevent and reduce suicide in our region and also promote hope within our communities. We raise awareness through education, outreach, and community support. We meet the 3rd Friday of every month. We are here today to ask for the city's blessing. We are planning to do a 5K walk run for fun on Saturday, September 13th. And September is Suicide Prevention Month. And we have selected Pine City or Pine County as the location for that run because the coalition did receive, or is going to be receiving a donation from the family of Andy Issanon. From Pine County, his family lives in Harris. So we thought that it would be very appropriate to honor their donation by having the walk here in Pine County, and Robinson Park is a good spot to start the location. He was a figure at Froggy's. And so the plan tentatively is to start and end at Robinson Park. And the planned path is to go to the Pine City High School, kind of do a loop there, and then come back to Robinson Park for a total of 5K or 2 point. We've got a lot of folks working with us on this. but we wanted to bring it here before we kind of create flyers and kind of really move further in the process to ensure that we have the support. So thank you.
Thank you. I think the best bet would be to move forward and be in contact with Marcy, our city administrator, and she can help out with any of the permitting and anything that would need to get set up, and that would need to come back for proposal.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for coming and thinking of us. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Name's Jack Kellogg. I'm here on behalf of the Pine City Smoke Eaters. It's a nonprofit that some of us firefighters started. So we can have events and do that kind of stuff to help raise money for outdated equipment that we want to replace and stuff like that. We're doing gun bingo, fire on the snake on September 6th at the Pine County Fairgrounds. We'd like for everybody here to join us. It's fun. There's a happy hour beforehand, bingo right after. Like to see city employees and everybody come out and support the fire department.
I have a question. When you advertise and invite, do you do that via social media? Or
Yeah, we got social media, we got flyers. There are gonna be, some flyers will be out throughout the businesses throughout the town.
I'm super happy to see you here tonight. And I'm gonna tell you that I've missed this event in the past. Because I don't have it on my calendar, so I love it that you're here inviting us. We can get the date on our calendar and whatnot.
Absolutely.
And it's a great event for our city, and I thank you guys for serving.
Absolutely. I'll leave some of these up here on the table if anybody wants to grab a couple.
Thank you.
Thank you for your guys' time.
Thank you. QR code's the next touch this year.
Chad's idea.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Right, this is still public forum. If there are any other members of the public that would like to step forward for public forum, I will ask again if anyone in the public would like to step forward for public forum. I will ask for a third and final time if members of the public would like to step forward for public. Hearing none, we will move on to item number 6, the sheriff's update. Said he was gonna be here, right?
Yeah, I actually don't see him.
Here.
Do you remind them that it's here?
But I did remind him that it's here from now on.
Takes us usually never go for sheriff's office. All right, we will get on call. That and move on to 12.1. Take us away, Jim.
So at the May 28th Planning Commission meeting, commissioners met, they reviewed a site plan for.
Can you just tell me the phone number, please? Sorry. I'm sorry. That's okay.
At the May 28th Planning Commission,
I can hear you better.
the commissioners met and they reviewed a site plan for the proposed new Dairy Queen development. I had SDH do the review. They have met all of the city's code requirements. Commission also discussed ongoing traffic concerns in Evergreen Square, and it's something that we're hoping to work through with on the county. They voted unanimously to approve the site plan. And we're looking for your guys'.
Absolutely, questions, concerns.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve, resolution. Wait for it. 2025-18.
And I have the motion. I hear a second. Second by Jay. Any further discussion?
Just for conversation, that the traffic piece we did discuss on the private property part of this, and Hillside has a corridor from 35 to, or 61 in Hillside meet to try to see if we can look at it more holistically rather than intersection by intersection as we go. So yes, we're doing everything we can to address the traffic that is coming to attention. Great. That's all.
Perfect. All right, this is resolution, so then we'll proceed with our call vote. I think Dan.
Aye.
Gina.
Yes.
Dave.
Yes.
I will also vote yes. That motion carries. All right, next up, we'll move on to item number 12.2, Balboa home occupation.
At the May 28th Planning Commission, the commissioners received and reviewed a conditional use permit. It was their decision whether this went to a public hearing. The review was done in comparable to what Wagmore used to be. They used to be a home occupation before they had their store. And they had their discussion about that, and that's how kind of see everything is kind of matching. So they approved the conditional use permit based on the conditions that are provided in the resolution.
Questions, comments, or concerns from council?
Any complaints from the neighbors?
And we asked if it would be sight, smells, or sounds, and we're told no. So, okay, those would be the three that will probably get calls out. And and we were presented with the business plan. It was, you can tell there's been some thought.
Right, so we can take a motion to approve resolution 2025-16.
So moved.
Dan, with your second.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a resolution, so we'll proceed to roll call vote. Dan?
Aye.
Gina?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Kyle?
Yes.
Also, vote yes, that motion carries. All right, next we move on to 12.3. Minor subdivision.
At the May 28th Planning Commission meeting, we had a public hearing to consider a minor subdivision. After with the review, the current properties don't meet their setback requirements. So with this minor subdivision comes with, there was 3 lot combination applications. And in order for this to go through, my recommendation was to approve it based that the lots be combined. It would improve, it would be, these other properties meet their setback requirements that are currently. And it was approved unanimously with lot combinations.
Any feedback from the community?
Thank you, guys. Council members, any questions, comments, concerns? Resolution 2025-17.
So moved.
Gina?
I'll second.
Second, Kyle. Further discussion? The rest of the team, so we'll proceed to the call vote. Dan?
Aye.
Gina?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Kyle?
Yes.
Also vote yes, that motion carries.
I just want to say thank you, Mayor and Council, for our application.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right, yes, we'll move back.
Thanks for coming out.
I've seen everyone.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Carl.
it's my bedtime in about 20 minutes, so.
Bedtime.
Take care, have a good summer, everyone.
Have a good night.
Right, that's move to item number 7, or another is that the department report for Friday, everything practice comments with your service.
Laura, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Memorial Day. First year of doing it. How'd it go?
We were open from 9 to 4. I think maybe after sales and cost of goods and salaries, we might have made about $1,000. So it's, I mean, we said that we would try it. And decide then what we should do with Labor Day, so
Do you have volunteers for Labor Day here?
not as of right now, I don't. We did have a few volunteers for Memorial Day, and then one ended up not being able to work because of health issues of her husband, but a couple other people stepped up and they split the shift, so it did end up getting covered.
Thank you. Any other follow-up for the permit reports? Now, we'll move to item number 8, any updates? And we'll start with, the first committee.
Well, we had a pretty good sized agenda. We talked about a lot of stuff that we had brought back, but one of the main item on the agenda was going to be talking about the policy ordinance based in law to not allow public art traffic corridors due to public safety concern. But we hadn't posted it properly online. It got, the agendas got mixed up and didn't get the right agenda on there right away. So I said that we are just gonna bring it back to public art or public works again, the next meeting coming up. And we'll bring that and put that back on the agenda. As far as anything else, we talked about the freeway lift station. Maury's working with SEH and on that issue. That's the pump station or sewage pump station out there, or across the street from the old Kentucky Fried Chicken in the weeds there. We talked about painting the crosswalks and curves. Maury's got the paint now. Plan is to try to get it done for sure by fair, but we'd like to get it done by 4th of July. Am I right? Or, okay. We had a little conversation about the crosswalks at Pine Tech, and that's a very high item on our list to get that done. And the county's working with the railroad right now. And then we'll work with the county on what needs to be done at that intersection for cost sharing items. We talked a little bit about the snow plowing map. Everybody's supposed to go out and look at it and make some suggestions. We'll bring that back to one of the next future meetings coming up. Or he's able to sell bulk water. He's got all that fixed now, so that works good. He's working on a lot of maintenance on the building, power washing and some upkeep maintenance and stuff that was scheduled, and it's all on. He's right on time with getting it done, so I'm pretty pleased about that. Truck routes was a topic that we talked about. It was after the meeting, I was talking to a couple of the members, and I think, and if you go and you look at the state statutes on what Minnesota allows cities to do, we can regulate traffic on the roads that are in our jurisdiction. And it includes the power to designate truck routes and restrict truck traffic in other streets. While talking to a couple of the members afterwards about it, the idea was, sure, we can put signs up, and you almost have to if you're going to adopt an ordinance that covers truck routes. Don't have to get too crazy that that's what they need to see. What other cities I found were doing that was more effective was, I'll just use one example, down from the liquor store. Behind the back street, 7th Street, and it intersects to the back of Second Avenue. You could have a sign going down to the west that says no truck traffic allowed. And you do that on all the main streets that we're having these problems. Tonight I watched that might pull out of 11th Street and it went down 10th Street because his shop is north of Pine City. So that's a whole lot easier than driving around Main Street. But when you have a trailer that long, when you have a truck that big, I don't like that. That's very unsafe. We need to start pulling these trucks out of residential areas. And the way to do that is to signage and eventually they'll see. I mean, you're gonna have a few that are gonna miss it the first few times, but so that's one of the things we'll be working on. I don't think there was anything. El Fresco Dining was started for a lot of reasons, and I was involved in it as fire marshal. A lot of it was because of COVID, and that's what to allow the restaurants to stay open and try to make some money if they could, because of the distancing that was being required by them. And I was all in favor of that still. It was still a tough sell for
when we start talking to the fire chief. I mean, because there's a lot of things that happen when streets get narrowed by, bulliards and whatever else is put out into the right of way of the streets. I just think I think we need to review, and that's why I think Public Works needs to do it. We need to review what our policy is. We need to look at some suggestions. We need to look at some minimum requirements and bring all that back, after we get the Public Works looks at it and brings it back. We'll bring it back to the council and see if anybody agrees with us. I don't think I had some good stuff. Oh, page 2 is actually good. I'm done. Yes.
I was milling over that, but that's.
Oh, excuse me, I
That's
forgot.
on the agenda.
That's why I didn't put it on my list for things, so bring it on up.
All right, EDA, we discussed a application to one of the EDA's loans from the revolving loan fund, and briefly discussed 315 hotel project, and talked about big opportunities through Explore Minnesota Chamber. That's about all. Can I remember from that?
It was brief.
So like you can. Planning commission. We covered most of the planning commission about 5 minutes ago. What we had, I'm going to. Minor subdivision. Site plan review for Jerry Wade, home occupation, and building a possible building grade. That was not one that was pretty light agenda as well. Last up was ordinance review. Dan, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, that was, just finding my tab here. We also discussed the filling and grading permit, and offered a little bit of feedback to try to move that along. I would say it's pretty close. We talked about, alternative manufactured home styles, about barn dominiums and finishes, things that basically a right to try. If people want to try to build something, we'll let them build it with some restrictions, like no exposed fasteners and looks and stuff like that. We talked about the assessment policy really briefly, just about the special assessment toolkit and where we're at with that, and the advice that we have gotten, that we're gonna need to wait to change that. Got an MOMA update, and then we began discussion on the IPMC again.
Great. Any other follow-up for the committee reports? On to the consent items. Someone's making a motion to approve the preference comments.
Make a motion to approve, our consent items.
Gina? Can I hear a second?
I was gonna see if we could, and it's too late now, but I wanted to strike the special meeting minutes to table those, to add some clarity to that.
So I can amend my motion to approve all consent items. Pulling out 9.3 for additional discussion.
Yeah, second that.
Yeah.
Second, Dan. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. All right, so we move on to old business. Item number 10.1, move to one council meeting for summer months.
Can I ask a question? What are we doing with 9.3 then? Like, are we,
Just tabling it, so.
we're just tabling it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, 10.1, move to one council meeting for the summer months. Something that I brought forward as kind of a need from our past discussion in the past council meetings was we successfully had a very light middle of the month meeting last month. So my thought was maybe we try for the next June, July, August, let's move to one meeting a month, see how that works. We need to call a special meeting for something. See if we can drop down to one meeting a month, see what happens. And if we craft and burn, we go back to two, but if not, maybe we'll continue.
I know you can see it.
I'm kind of nervous to drop down at the rate we're going at with special meetings. But on top of that, if stuff has to get done, or we need to follow up on things, that's a long gap. Especially if people need to get things approved in that meantime.
We wouldn't be having, we're not, like the Thursday meeting, we didn't have anything that needed, even the minutes weren't even on there.
So we started the Thursday meetings for planning. Yeah, but the planning in order to get things posted and properly and proper notice. That, and if we're not taking action on Thursdays, you know, that's kind of eliminated, but planning was one of the main reasons that there was that additional meeting because staff in the past was unable to get things up, notified in the paper and whatnot in proper time. So if, you know, I'm taking our direction from you guys as well as what we have to bring home.
I mean, that planning session literally started at the last meeting. Before that, we were taking action right up until the last meeting. That was the only time that we actually adhered to that kind of planned idea of having no discussion on a Thursday or no action on a Thursday.
But that's kind of up to the agenda setter as well. Look, you know, we don't need it on the agenda, but yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I still think we have way too much in front of us. And even if we are starting to come out of the weeds a little bit, there's a lot of short-term, medium-term and long-term planning and discussing that we could be doing to maybe put ourselves in a situation to get ahead or even stay caught up and have it available. I don't know. I'm really nervous about going away from 2 meetings, and I think there's stuff that's falling through the gaps. I think we're having special meetings. It'd be nice if we didn't have to have special meetings, if we could just have normal meetings to get the actions done instead of having to wait a whole another month to drag it on out or call a special meeting before then. Or one of us has to miss a meeting. Probably. Or 2 months, 2 months.
I'm just, for the good of the order, I'm just stating that we can attend meetings remotely as long as we give X amount, every 3 days notice and notify our address at a public place.
But sometimes if we're missing, they're not, there was some
Right.
places. that
I know, I just, like I said, for the good of the order, I just want to say that's an option.
I had heard or over that something has recently changed with the open meeting law where you don't have to disclose your location, but that's like fresh as of this week, so I have no other information other than I heard that as well.
She's right.
I had,
Yeah, because, you know, summer vacations are a real thing too. It's spending time with family and things that come up, so I think that's one good thing that came out of COVID is that we realized we can attend a meeting virtually, but,
And maybe instead of handcuffing ourselves with the work planning meeting only, why don't we just open up the second meeting so it could be business meeting as well?
I'm taking my cue from the staff. We
I
have,
think what Ken's looking for is just to try it, to see, I mean, you don't know unless you try. I think each month we're getting more organized over the last year, and we don't know until we try.
I know, like, because a lot of this, that we dealt with was, that's gonna keep everybody busy for a long time. I don't know how much more of these requests we're gonna get in. Most of the construction has already been talked about. I mean, they're gonna get it done this year. Yeah, so, I mean, I think it's worth a try. We can call it. And yeah, you're right, Kyle, sometimes we tend to call too many special meetings, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
I just think it's easier to have a structured set meeting than trying to set a special meeting, so. Because if I know I have an obligation, I'm not planning something that day. That's just me.
Well, I think there's so much going on and there people aren't planning anything.
spitballing, how about if we, hold the space for the second meeting, but within a week before that, if there's not enough to fill an agenda, we suspend it, put that notice out. Is that, I'm spitballing, I'm just throwing out ideas.
What's the requirement on when you have to call it?
It might be a loaded question, 'cause I think I can come up with a lot of things to fill the Thursday meeting. The problem is that the public can't join at that point if they have any concerns.
But if we're not taking, if we're committed to not taking action, are we changing that we're gonna take action?
Yeah, but if the Thursday meeting is the meeting where the public is allowed to come in and talk, and then we have all of a sudden a special.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
That, and they can't come during the daytime. That's concerning. I think we just dealt with that situation.
I'm kind of up for trying it.
Yeah, that was my thought in breaking. I'm not just saying we can streamline things a little bit. I know we're all meeting to the gills here, but
What is the operational controls that we'll have in place to make sure that stuff doesn't get lost off the agenda? Because there's been stuff that has been lost. I remember Dave talking about a laundry list of things. So we're getting it every other week, that stuff is just going by the wayside. So,
Not currently, though.
well, if we set deadlines and say it needs to be done at the next council meeting, and we find out that there's problems, we're working with other government agencies and it's getting pushed out for 2 months, and all of a sudden it starts getting dropped off the agenda, forgotten.
It won't be forgotten, but if it's out of our control, it'll be monitored until we are able to bring it back and we have the information we need from that other agency.
I think the staff has done a great job of, what I did was, I went back over the first couple of years that I was here and wrote down everything on the agendas that we said we were gonna talk about or do the next time, and it never got done.
Yes.
And I called it my Marcy's list, and I gave it to her, and she's been whittling away at it. We're down to just maybe 2 or 3 items, so I think we're catching up. I still think we got a long ways to go, but I like the idea of just trying it. How about we just try it for 2 months? And if it works good in July, June and July, then,
I thought we had items that were already set for this.
or June's already set. Be July and August, what we're talking. We already got June set. It'd be July and August.
I won't be here in July. I won't tell that week, because I thought it was on the
First
second,
or second meeting?
the first meeting,
Okay.
because it's on the 9th, not the second. So first Wednesday.
Although historically, I think we've always only had one week in July, because
I think so.
We talked about that when we set this one. We did the first of the year and stuff, so.
yeah, so that's what I came in from you guys. I'd be in June 28th meeting and I didn't come on until the end of July.
we'll try it for 3 months. I'll just special meeting the death out of everybody. If I need something.
We're there for you, buddy.
Don't say to death. Okay, just say
Near death? No, just kidding.
near death.
Yes, yeah.
Someone to make a motion to try and move it to 1 meeting month.
I think I should. Beat the drum for 2 years.
Slang them at.
I'll make that motion.
Motion for Dave to make it a second.
That motion is for June, July, and August.
Right. Not June. July and August. We'll just do July and August. Because
So we're gonna-
June's already set.
Okay.
We can't take that one out.
All right, I'll second Dave's motion.
Dave, second. Gino, any further discussion?
Is there a threshold that we're gonna use if we get past July and go, oh my God? Like, is there some sort of
Yeah, our
fail safe or?
administrator will guide us.
I mean, you'll see it too, when it gets too big to even. I mean, we don't want to be here for 3-4 hours.
No,
So if we can maintain
We can reverse
a
one.
reasonable time that we need.
Because the only other thing to keep in mind is that July and August gets down to budget planning.
Yeah.
And so you're not gonna be able to slap that all into a business meeting, I don't think, unless everybody
No.
was here until midnight.
And we historically called an extra meeting for budget planning, just for budget planning.
Which
So
would be helpful for these months to not have the second meeting, because staff is going to be working so hard on this to remove that second meeting for these 2 months, I think is gonna be helpful to staff, especially for the budget planning.
Let's try
I
it.
think it might work out, yeah.
No gloating.
A little bit.
He's a little giddy.
I didn't think it ever went that much.
We've got a motion from Dave and a second from Gina, to drop down from 1 meeting months for July, August. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next up, we'll move on to 10.2. This is mass notification sound.
Do you want me to update? I feel like you're more knowledgeable about this. Do you?
We're hoping to have like a final decision for July, for the first July meeting to get an approval going for that. We met with 4 people and I think, I mean,
Now it's just come
For
down to
people
their
or for
proposals.
companies or for.
Yeah, and just their 4 proposals and, we could get all the proposals out to them too.
yeah,
Yeah, why don't we do that first? You guys can, we'll get the proposals out to you to look at. And we had Kent and Dan attended, I believe, each of the meetings we had with all
the only
4.
one I missed was Catalyst.
Catalyst.
Completely missed it?
I think it would be, as someone who didn't attend the meetings and hasn't talked to staff about it, just along with this, a little overview of, what it means to the staff to have this mass communication.
That's a good idea. Let's do that for the Thursday meeting. We can kind of
Okay.
do an overview of all of these for you to look at. Take your time to look at it and see
Yeah.
how to move forward with it.
Cause I'd like to understand, because some of it might be, setting up so people can sign up for things online, and some of it might be, hey, don't use water on 8th Street
Exactly.
Monday on Tuesday or whatever.
Exactly.
So I'd like to know that from the staff.
And some
as we
let,
look at the programs.
the residents reach us, some don't.
Okay,
So, yeah.
yeah, that would be great.
Any further comment on this notification sound? I will 10.3, the assessment policy.
This was on the last agenda.
I asked for that.
Yeah, and, we're at a point now where to review it, we need to have someone with a better understanding.
Well, I had some conversations. I went out and did a little exploring out in the state of Minnesota, just talking to different ones about what they would do. And, city leaders, and basically they said it could be done by staff, but here's the problem we have. Staff is maxed out now. I know that, I can see that. I don't think I can, we throw everything that we can at you because that's what we do. We don't get paid, so it makes it easier for us. But I think we need to reach out and find someone that's familiar with city works. I have one person in mind, you know who that is. And I think, and I've talked to her and she would probably do it. And it would be, a city previous city administrator. So
I think if we're gonna go to the route to find individuals that would help, we would have to put it out to.
and an RFP. Yeah, no, I was going there, but I know what you're saying. I mean, I don't think we just go out. We put it out for an RFP and see who's interested, and I would encourage this one person to apply.
For me, as I've been getting questions from some residents, I have been trying to familiarize myself with page 8 and page 9 and help citizens realize that there are financial things that council can do to help, that are based in law for senior citizens, disadvantaged citizens, hardship, there's deferments, there's all kinds of different things that are available for this particular project.
Right.
And then as we move forward, it's definitely worth looking at and hiring a consultant if you would to see if there's something better, but that's where I've been trying to focus my.
Yeah, we might go around the horn and find out that we got the best of everything. I don't think so. I think, we're in the same predicament as a lot of other cities. that, you know, the cash flow isn't there as far as street reconstruction. And it's gotten so blasted high price that it's just, I feel sorry for the people, and I've made the commitment that I'm gonna do something about this, and I intend to keep beating the drum until we either find out we got the best that we can get, or we can find a better formula. And there are cities out there in the state that spread it across or have a tax increment district just for street reconstruction. And it probably makes more sense at sometimes. The unfair thing for city residents, and I'll be real honest with it, we're not the only ones that drive on these streets. Everybody in the townships around us comes into our town, but we pay for the streets. So how do you find the fairness in that, so that you're not, you know, putting the entire burden of the maintenance of these streets? And I think if we can work a little harder on this truck route stuff, keep these trucks, because these truck, you can't tell me a truck that's loaded down with, you know, a few tons of stuff on it doesn't do more damage than a passenger car. You know, our streets are set up to do what? Are they all 9 tons or are they 10 tons? They're all 9 tons, aren't they? Pretty much, yeah.
Maury, I have a question for you. Did we talk at one time that the whole city has been reconstructed after we did like those little neighborhoods out by the fairgrounds and then Lake Street, like everybody's had at least one update in 25 or 30. Did I make that up in my brain? I did, okay.
Still have some like utility in the streets that are from the 40s.
Is that like,
Mainly, yeah, a little bit in the southeast, and mainly southwest towards the river.
big?
9th Street is one,
Like 8th Street, 9th Street,
8th Street,
Okay.
9th Street.
Down just,
7th Street
okay,
over here.
but we're closer.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But here's the clincher, yeah. Every one of those projects he just told you about that we haven't done is gonna be just as expensive, more expensive than 10. It will be more expensive. So,
Well, Brand found money.
I don't know if they found money, they,
They're doing it.
well,
Yeah, they had to have a match.
I think
Yeah,
that's,
it's a match.
find options that don't involve using a tax increase injection to do it, because at the end of the day, 77% of the project, or whatever it is still funded by the entire city. There are people that have decided to live out in the county where they deal with the additional traffic that are all of a sudden gonna have to pay for the burden of people that don't want to pay the special assessment of living on a quieter street. And then coming down to how do you prioritize dead ends over heavily trafficked roads, and how long are they gonna have to pay that tax burden where their road just turns into gravel? I don't think that there's any simple solution. Spreading that all out on everybody maybe isn't a fair deal either.
So I don't know where you put quiet streets you're talking about, because if you're talking about any of the main streets going north and south, I don't think there's one of them during the day, especially with school on, that's a quiet street. It's road race. They chase down, come across 10th, so, because that's a fast way out of anywhere. And then they fly around 11th as fast as they can to get another, if it looks like it's jammed up somewhere else, it's just like the Indy 500 sometimes. So, and it's not all city residents doing it either, that's the problem. But we can't tax the townships, so we're stuck with the bill, and how do we make it more fair? I think it's, you know, if you can't, you know, if you levy for it, and you're reasonable about what your expectations are as far as what you can pay for, you should be able to, I don't know where it'd be any worse than what we're dealing with right now. You're still paying taxes, and these poor people on 10th Street are gonna get walloped. I mean, really hard. And then we look at what happened with our assessment policy in 22, in 23, when we failed to bond for that stuff. You know, that didn't help us at all either. So, you know, that set us back a little ways, so.
At one point, the township member had approached us about splitting the cost for a road that was township and probably be utilized by citizens, Pine City residents. There are areas throughout Pine City that those township members can only get to by going to the city. Maybe we do have to go back and look at some kind of split cost or taking in some income for that usage. Or look at adding that into city limits through annexation. Because at the end of the day, they're in those students. So
Kind of leads us into 10.4, doesn't it? Nicely, Kyle.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing. Was, what, I didn't, we set that up pretty good. didn't we?
We had a
Okay,
10.1 that we skipped and a 10.1 drive now.
That's why I agree with you.
I'll have each one.
So any further discussion on the assessment policy, or should we move on to it?
I would like, you know, if we didn't, it doesn't say that we can take action on it because it's just old policy. Or old business.
You are
We
allowed,
already,
you can take action.
That-
If you wanted
I
to.
thought we already voted last week that we were going to have, you know.
We asked her to look into it,
Yeah.
look into some firms or whatever. I think we should make it formal this way so it gets done, you know, if our expectations get met. I'll make the motion that we look into an RFP for, the assessment policy.
We
I
do
heard
that.
someone-
How about you, staff put together the RFP and we'll present it to you on the Thursday meeting?
Right, yeah, there you go. That'll work.
Okay.
Yeah.
we can't take any action.
Oh. Okay,
It'll be the July meeting.
July meeting.
What you're looking for is an RFP for somebody to come in and look at doing a study, on a different way to do it.
We can,
Different assessment.
we can still have the RFP presented, we just.
oh yeah, just to look at, how about that, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in the review would be to see if our assessment policy is sustainable the way it is, or if there's a better way forward.
Right.
What would be nice on there is to have more than just one option forward. Maybe have 3 options forward and ours is constant, then have ranked as what the best option would be.
Maybe
Because there might not be.
we'll have time to rank them then.
Could be better option.
Because for me, it's fairness is one, but sustainability is the biggest, because if the policy we have is not sustainable. Have to do something different.
All right, we have a motion to prepare an RFP. Dave, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second, Dan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. All right, next we will move on to 10.4 annexation plan.
This was requested to be brought back to the agenda. I know it was a topic at our last meeting and maybe how to continue the conversation or how to move forward,
At the day meeting or the night meeting?
whatever meeting you were at, was at the
First.
meeting?
Yeah, must. I feel like this is kind of in the same boat as assessment policy. We need, someone that's unbiased, that maybe does it, you know, has some planning experience and, we're going to experience growing pains and we want to do that as painlessly as we can, but we're gonna have to grow. So how do we do it?
Does the league have somebody? That does assessment or does annexation?
I don't know if they do, I can look
I feel like
into it.
that's more enough. I mean, they may,
Yeah,
they
but
probably do because they have darn near
I
everything,
think they'll
but
be limited on how much they recommend.
yeah.
Well, that part, yeah, but they could maybe
I feel like
help us
it's
with
more
the
in the
procedure
planner.
or the planning part of it. Who should we get or what should we, you know, maybe they got a list of ideas or firms.
So then we would need an RFP.
Technically, it's professional services, so.
I was gonna say there's a gray area there, I think.
I think we just need some options that are different than the current assessment or the annexation option that we have, which is either take whatever we're given by the townships or we buy it to take our current option. We need to be a little more aggressive, I think. There are people in the townships that can only access their house by going down our roads. Our taxpayers are foot.
And we also have to, consult our cap plan.
That's part of our comp plan.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean,
That's,
Well, the last,
Kind of-
Gina, were you here with the last organizational annexation? But when we brought in up to Crosscut. Yeah, whatever. But big, That was in the plan to go up to there. That was part of the orderly annexation. But when that was set up, you weren't part of that when it was set up, but
Not when it was set up.
that would have been prior to you. There's nobody around.
Not that old.
Oh,
It's, yeah, part of the comprehensive plan, we spent a lot
Well,
of time talking about.
there were, and what I remember of it, because it wasn't much of any of my duties, but I remember there was a lot of talk about, well, they gave us everything that, every swamp they didn't want. And I don't want to go through that again either. That's why I think,
We also have the west side, it was part of the city and then in 1960 something, the freeway went through, so that now it's just sliced off. But that area has grown. I mean, that's easy.
how about your parents?
Okay, it's a gone, so it's not.
No, I mean, but.
But yeah, out in that neighborhood, yeah.
Neighborhood.
Yeah, we're the corner of the city, so, I mean,
And I mean, I remember a planning commission meeting where we were looking at going far to the west of 35, north as far as we could, and east out to the, I think, 2,000 feet away from shoreline, and then pretty much south as far as we could go. I don't
and
know
the
that,
river kind of makes a natural barrier for all that, lakes.
I don't know that we'd be able to grasp that all in 1 year or 10 years, but we need to be a little more aggressive on Culver City because this is getting kind of expensive to develop all these swamps.
I do think if we, my personal opinion is for annexation, we just need to make sure that if we're bringing someone into the city or bringing some properties into the city, that we're providing them additional services.
I agree.
Their taxes up for the sake of.
I agree with
Benefit
that.
analysis, absolutely a benefit analysis of what.
I agree with that. So that's where the professional comes in and kind of, unless we get to X amount, we're gonna be in the hole. We have to have at least this much in order to break even and this much in order for it to be a benefit and all those things. That's way above my pay grade.
Maybe we could offer blacktop roads, water, we could offer substations for lower ISO ratings, expanded fire service, look at expanding police coverage. So, seems like we have options. Could probably even bring in more commercial businesses by having a bigger footprint that's actually part of this. Available housing units.
Yeah, and again, that little neighborhood out there that I'm talking about has none of those benefits. No tar roads. Well, actually, that's not true. There's a little tar road, but no water.
I've always wanted to run water over there, but I always got turned down.
It's not a lot of people right now, but
If we had water over there, we could develop out faster. We found that the cost for that is not nearly as much as we thought. It's under $1 billion thanks for water across the region.
That might be a good idea, but we've got looping to do that we better finish first. I don't think we go out and make things better for somebody else, but we have to make it better for the people that are here. That's my point.
I think that would help the people that are here and move it on the side. It's 4th and 14th and that side of the city and.
If you're gonna loop it, that's $2 million, because you can spend $1 million to go across, then you get to come back. I think we better move on.
all right.
I think we're discussing.
So staff is gonna look at the medical service.
Bring it back to the next meeting.
Gotta put
Keep
it-
keep it on there.
Next, we'll move on to 10.5, library comment.
This is short and sweet. I have a request to the county with their AI placer. And they are monitoring, but don't have numbers back yet, and also from the library, a request has been put in for. They do track this, so it'll be interesting to compare the two.
Is there any time frame on when they're gonna get that back to us?
Library, I thought would be today, so obviously I'll probably get it tomorrow. And then, county, I haven't heard back yet. I can reach out and find out. They kind of, she had to customize it a little bit to just, because it was including like pizza pub. And so that it was, she had to dial it in tighter. It's funny.
Okay, moving to 10.6, capital improvement budget update.
Is this coming from Public Works? This was requested to be on here.
I never did that. I don't think.
Did I just carry it over? I know that we're working on it. I thought someone requested
Well,
this.
there's a little update in the budget, update, I mean, about the capital, where it is. I don't know if that was what you mentioned.
Was there? I feel like you're right. I think it had to do with, I thought it had to do with Public Works and the fire department, to be honest.
I know we've been working on the hydrants, and then we are working on the capital improvement plan. I apologize. I thought someone requested it.
Is the ladder truck on the capital plan?
Yeah, 250.
Do we have any kind of update on where we're sitting at with ladder trucks?
For the $250,000 and allocated to the capital plan for purchase of the truck and everything.
Sorry. They can't hear me on mine.
There's $250,000 allocated in the capital plan for the purchase of the used ladder. I have over the last couple of months been able to find a couple to start chasing down. And in that price, I don't know the right way to say this, the price of ladder trucks went from $1 million new to $2 million for a new truck. And the price of used followed along with it. And it seems like the value aspect of the used trucks are out of reach at $250,000. I'm still looking. I had a handful that I've chased down, gotten maintenance records and pump test records for the ladder test and non-destructive tests. And some of them look okay, and then you find out that the engine has 16,000 hours logged on their power meter. So it's been a meter rebuild soon. So I think that I don't know where that we're going to find one in that dollar amount. Just being honest, but I'm still looking. I think there's probably 4 tabs open on my computer right now of different sites where they have used trucks.
Slightly off topic, are we reaching a point where it might actually make sense to fix our existing ladder truck, or is that still just for?
I still don't know that'd be the greatest idea, because at the end of the day, you're still gonna have a 1989 truck with a 90 ladder on it, and we don't know what the rest of that truck is gonna do. I did know that Jan Hassan had already put a couple different transmissions in it and everything, and knock on wood, we didn't have a transmission issue with it, but we had a more expensive part.
What a lot of times what happens with these trucks are that he's looking at, you go to the Metro or any of the larger departments, that's their first truck out of this station. And they have to do that for a few reasons. And one of the biggest reasons is budget wise, to buy one of these things, they're so darn expensive. If they can't justify its use, they can't justify purchasing it. And that's what happens. They get all run for high miles and stuff. And sure, it looks like they keep it nice and clean and that because they're always inside. But it's underneath it. You can't see that's, the hours like he was saying. You aren't gonna find the ones with low hours and they take it out for parades and that's it. No, they can't do that. Otherwise they'd never be able to buy another one.
It does have a big impact on ISO, and it is important for residential, but I think it's more important for bringing in commercial properties. I wish that we could just park it in the fire hall and call it good. Unfortunately, it has to be able to run, and it actually has to be able to do something. So as much as I want to just leave it in the fire hall for 40 years, just get all the points on it, if it ever does get called to a fire and it doesn't work, we're gonna have to prove why we didn't fix it.
Can I ask you, in your experience with fire, is this a hyper reactionary market with equipment right now, or we're seeing a strong spike and it'll decrease, or it's gonna plateau out? This is kind of where the bottom is, if you will.
I think this is where the new bottom is.
to be totally honest. I've asked a couple of friends of mine that sell Rosenbauers, a couple of friends that sell Pierce, a couple of friends that sell E1s, and they're all saying, don't expect them to come down. They're gonna, it's the price of the parts, the price of the components, and the labor prices. The weird thing with the fire truck is even like the one that we just bought, that isn't, you don't go to a car lot and pick one up, they're not mass produced, they're all individually handmade. From bumper to bumper basically, so. There's a lot of labor.
We have the capacity to finance a new truck, just spitball in here. And make payments. No,
We've already collected the 250.
We haven't collected anything yet, we're still waiting for property taxes to come in.
In theory, we'll have the 250 collected once property taxes come in. If we had 250 set aside for the next year or two, would we be able to buy them?
That's a budget talk.
We're talking about capital, right? So,
If we added 250 to the 250,
would that
if we
be
could find,
something that would put us more in the ballpark for a used truck, or would that put us more in the ballpark for being able to finance a new truck with that much of a down payment? I don't need a decision today. Maybe think about it over July and August when we're not meeting the council. But
That'd be definitely food for thought. Generally, what I'm seeing for about $500,000 of a 100-foot platform right now is 12, 14-year-old truck.
I guess the only other cautionary thing is that if OSHA changes the fire service. Battles.
Do they offer? I know our auditors, we read the money, do they offer something that's like a lease to own, 5-year lease, and you, by the time you end up paying off that lease, it's
There's
yours.
There's, when you get into the market of ladder trucks, at least when I was a rep for them, yes, when you get into that plateau of financing, they would offer 10-year lease, 15-year lease, and then like a 15-year lease, you have to buy the truck for $1 after you've paid your 15 lease payments. I would have absolutely no idea what the interest rates are on that right now. Because there's interest on it.
I'm just trying to think of something that would be maybe a little bit more local than a $2 million ladder truck.
Right. Does feedback from fire committee, have any influence on any of these decisions? Like on the investigation, no matter what, we need this.
The ladder truck wasn't going to be funded by the townships. The townships were very adamant about that, which is kind of interesting because I think the ladder was always used more in the townships than it was actually used in the city. The city's benefits is being able to bring in the ISO rating and the commercial business.
yeah, years ago, our 50-foot telescope, when I first got on, I was a 75 model. And I jumped at 76, but that thing got used for silo fires, K-mount fires, but we don't have the farmers doing that anymore. I mean, that's kind of there's very few farmers that put up silage anymore.
yeah, like
And haylage,
electric vehicle batteries, those types of things to worry about.
yeah, it's somewhere, well, building protection or where you gotta be a long ways away and some major manufacturing. I think the latest one that they used a lot of wasn't it Burnett Dairy? Didn't they have a couple areas over there? Three. I mean, you get into bigger buildings like that, that's there, and a lot of complexes that you need to have to reach in because there's not a safe way to do it. And wind's a big factor in a lot of that.
I know a lot in just Jim going off. Some of what Dave said is just, I know a lot of the ISO calculations are simply the length of the width of the building. And then they use that in their calculation of how high you need an elevated water stream, the big amounts. To where you can adequately Yeah, at an absolute minimum, keep that building A from spreading to building B. At absolute minimum, and that goes in their formula, and their formulas are. Well, it looks like that, from how they figure everything out, but, yes, I would say that it was probably used in the rural setting at probably 2 to 1. At a minimum. Generally, it's been used more on steel roofs with chimney fires. Then go up there in the winter and you're standing on the next gate. It was used on silo fires, barn fires. More chimneys, so there's a chimney fire right over here in town. But, and then there's other things there's other things you can use that for. You can use it for tying off if you have to rescue somebody off of the river with the low angle to rope rescue gear. Or you can, if certain ladders, you can use your high angle gear, you can just pull it back up. I don't know, that'd be food for thought, and if council a desire, I could try to call a couple of people I know that are still in the industry, get the information and see what they would be able to offer on, a demo. They do have demo trucks, and generally they got a very nice discount for a brand new demo. It comes basically with the engine and transmission broke in because they drove across the nation a few times. They usually come still with a full warranty, but look at a demo, look at a new with, maybe just proposed with like a $400,000 or $500,000 down payment. What did they do for financing? But just get the information. It's a lot of money. I'm sure that when we bought number 11 or number 10 rather, I'm sure it was a lot of money in 1975 too. But that sat around for many years. So we had it since it was made.
75 grand, was that?
I think it was 78 if I remember in the paperwork.
Somewhere in the 70s, I don't know.
So is it something that we could set as ask of the chief to bring that information back, where if we're gonna start seriously looking at budgets in August or whatever, to have that information as 2 months, to look at that stuff.
Sounds like a good idea.
Can we even see what we can put together for the second meeting in June, just to even see because it'll be.
I could probably have structured ideas. I don't know that I'll have any of the rates or terms or anything, but we can get something together for the second meeting.
Further follow on.
I just had one. It's one point more you showed me, truck or equipment replacement, sheet. Can we see that on the agenda as we're talking about, the capital improvement plan? I think that sheet went out a little bit further than what our capital improvement plan would say.
Yeah, I went out 15 years.
So be nice to see that's on
The
there.
only drawback to it is the price of distance.
Yeah.
Because, like, to Tommy's point, a plow truck went up, not quite double, but yeah.
It'd just be nice to start seeing what we're looking at on the horizon, like, especially if there's a huge ticket item a little bit further out. We're talking about all these other things that could, that pretty have to impact on this.
I feel like we've been very, we're at a state now where we're kind of reactive and it's like, oh shoot, we got things broken, let's take care of it. Oh, this thing broke, let's take care of it. And I'd like to take it just to where I hope in the future we can get to a point where we're a little bit more proactive and kind of, or at least in some
Preventative maintenance.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say really quick that we paid $664 for the new fire engine that we have. And Hinkley Fire is trying to put out for bids and everything right now for a truck, and they basically have confirmed that the number 32 over there right now is between a 900,000 and $1 million truck. If you were to try to buy that. So that just as an example of how much this stuff has started up. So,
Thank you. All right, any further follow-up? On to 10.7, the state personnel committee. I had a conversation with a member stating that we were kind of getting into the weeds with a lot of personnel issues during council meetings and things like that. So my first thought was to see if we could bring back the personnel committee, some of these things before they don't need to come before the whole council. They can have some things in the body before they sprout across into an oak tree. But
Does that have to be an open meeting?
personnel does not.
That's your call.
Well, that was one of the reasons they changed it to exactly what's happening.
I can't even speak to why, but there's a need, call it whatever you want, but if it's going to be talking about personnel committee is a great name. It's just kind of part of doing business of the city, I think, is you need to be able to sometimes have those critical conversations.
What are the guardrails for this committee? Because that's my biggest concern before I was elected, is that executive/personnel committee just became a behind closed doors rubber stamp of things forward and through.
Well,
And that was part of the reason why it was disbanded.
well, there was a lot of instances, but one of the biggest reasons is because of the leadership we had at the time. And there was one instance where there was a decision made by one person, and it should have been one of the executive committee members. You were the second, but you couldn't be there, and I didn't get called, and I was supposed to be the fill-in. And so the decision was, the meeting was held, decision was made by one person. That's what can't happen. If we're gonna have two people, it has to be fully two people.
And I don't even think, so to have it do what it's meant to do, I don't even think it needs to be set people or whatever, but it can be at your discretion. Maybe 1 month you need 3 personnel committees meetings, and 1 month you need 1 or 0. I hope that from being an executive member for like 7 years, I hope you're not saying that, things that happened there were shady, because I am saying for the record, nothing shady ever happened there. We came in, we did our work, we went home. So, I find that
Agree to
offensive.
disagree with that. I'm gonna have to agree with Mr. Swanson, is that it did seem like in the past that either 1 or 2 people were giving direction, the rest of the council wasn't in. And state statute says that a single council member or 2 council members can't give direction to staff. It has to be done by the majority. Now, if the personnel committee is to write down things that they're seeing that are problematic and provide things that could be improved upon, or the feedback that they're getting from the rest of the council without giving actual direction, that's maybe one thing, but I have a hard time with having 2 council members going in there, because do they start exceeding their authority and start giving direction that's beneficial to their interests and not beneficial to the whole council's interests?
Well, nothing can be done without council approval, first of all. And, so one person, can't make, Marcy's as our administrator, has her swath of things, but, I just think at some point, we all need to learn to trust each other and our decisions, and if we have questions or issues to, talk directly to that person instead of kind of worrying about something that may or may not be factual. So the trust has to come. So if we do bring back personnel committee and it can just be somebody different there's no set way to do it, just whatever it takes so that we can help staff and help the council make these decisions and keep things moving.
So this committee is gonna talk to each of the staff members and provide feedback on what?
You talked about at a previous meeting that we shouldn't micromanage, and maybe the only person that we should manage is the city administrator, not the city administrator, not the people. If, but people aren't being managed, then maybe the council has to step in and look at the management of the city administrator. Once we start picking and choosing individual staff members, or the staff member is gonna get this thought process that they can bypass the city administrator, go right to two council members, and two council members are gonna find a third council member to force the issue.
I just don't see things through the same lens as you do when it comes to this. Having had some management experience, I think it's a very natural thing to do, but, you know, it's up to the council. It's up to the mayor.
What's wrong with
Makes
having Marcy call her if she needs two council members? We have what we call a personnel committee, but that can be anybody, when she calls to see who's available. Because
It's kind of what
That's-
he does now.
That's
isn't
what I
it?
do currently.
And just call that the personnel committee where you send it out to all of us saying, I have a personnel issue, I need two people. And I say I can, or you say you can, but we're the only two, well, then we'd be the two that would come.
I just know,
We
like,
just do it that way instead of trying to have an official committee.
if my topic that I want to talk to Dave about is annexation, and Dave and I have a conversation about annexation, I can't then reach out to Kyle and say, oh, I just finished talking to Dave, now I want to talk to Kyle about annexation. That's not okay, because that's a serial meeting, and then call, you know, like, but if I want to talk to Dan about trucks on the roads, and I want to talk to Kyle about annexation, I want to talk to you about assessment policy, you know, I can do all of that. I just can't go from person to person to person, so.
And that part makes sense, but I don't know how that applies to personnel.
Because the topics that stayed at personnel committee would just stay at personnel committee. And then that committee doesn't come out and talk to us until the meeting and comes out at the meeting, just like our private conversation happened.
The only reason I could think of that there'd be personnel is because there's problems with the personnel, because we got a committee for every other department and what they do. So I don't know why we'd have to have another, go ahead, Laura.
So in the past, the personnel committee, since we're coming up with negotiations, the personnel committee were the people that negotiated all of the contracts so that they stayed similar. So, and I can say way back when I had issues at the liquor store, there was a personnel committee, and I could meet with those people, and I wouldn't have to catch the same people or different people up on what was going on with particular individuals that were working for me. And then when a decision was made, then it would come to the full council.
But at that point,
But it was strictly personnel. Executive was something totally different.
if there's a problem with the personnel, then the expectation, I guess, so that we're not micromanaging would be on the department head first. The department head can't resolve it, then it'd be the city administrator, I would think. And if the city administrator can't resolve it, then it should go to the full council, not two councilmen.
Well, unfortunately, all of our groups are organized, and so it includes union as well. So sometimes there's strategies on how you take care of particular problems, whether you put them on a performance plan or, you know, what kind of degree to extent our, you know what I mean? Our personnel is very protected because they're organized. So we can't, it's not just me, or it's not just me and Marcy, or it's not just me and Marcy, and it includes union people and then council, and you have to follow contracts.
Yeah, I guess I'm still feeling to why there would have to be two set council members to give advice on how you should handle the situation. Seems like you're just gonna be ceding the authority for two council members over the rest of the council.
I don't think that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me if we have it or don't have it. So if you bring it up, I mean, I just.
Yeah, I was just trying to see if we could help Lynn during a couple of our council meetings, take care of things before they meet council. Thanks.
It causes,
Just keep doing it the way we're doing it.
Okay, we move on to 10.8. Rebank for the city management plan setting or in like slides. This we've brought forward, chatted about it a few times. I think at the end of the day, we seem pretty positive about it at previous meetings. We just need to get something rolling. I'm assuming it'll have to fall on Brock's lap at some point.
We talked about it too at our county meeting this morning, that they already have trees in the works on another property, sounds like outside of town. So I think the goal was maybe to have property designated in town where these trees could be planted, grown to a certain level and then transplanted when the city needed something cleared, and now we want to put something there.
I love this idea. Seems like we might need to, develop an MOU. You know, people, as people change.
Right.
So that.
And start
when
thinking
Marcy
of-
wins the lottery and has all this knowledge in her head, the next person can just take over it, or when Dan wins the lottery and it's no longer on Northern Lights, or, you know, just some memorandum of understanding so we understand each.
Yeah, and I think the location of where we could place the trees is what would be our next step.
Replace the land.
Yes, the property where these trees could be saplings to a certain height and then yeah.
You said what, an acre?
Acre holds up to 1,000.
And an 8 by 8 holds 1,000 trees.
There's on the maintenance is that is.
Maintenance is, as we were discussing, to be taken care of by the lands.
Well, it'd be nice if you had a place where there was water.
That's fair, that's,
So, you know, we probably got a couple of those.
Okay, so silly question, is there space on the outside of the community garden that because there's water there? And
Well, we own all the land.
I know.
Yeah.
I love that area or that idea too. That's convenient.
maybe we could come up with some ideas of land and then bring them back to
That would be a good idea.
a dog park. Like community garden, but is there water?
Well, there's water. We have a water
Oh, that's
tank right there.
Well, like with the spigot though.
Oh, I'm sure there is. They could put one, I think that.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Okay. So bring back a handful of ideas for Thursday meeting? Okay.
Even though we need to make a decision on the where, just more like, who's, you know, how does it work and who's gonna maintain it?
Oh, okay.
caveat that I know the Lions Club, if they're going to manage it, would like to see is that a more than just residents of the city of Madison could withdraw a tree. So somebody from a township or something, but could come take a tree, and I don't know how many trees you're allowed a year.
Yeah,
how
those are the things
any of that kind of stuff, but
Suddenly we don't, yeah.
if you can get in touch, I can get, I'm sure whoever would like to, take this on, I can get somebody to push that. I can't, if you want to be still a little more.
And kind of draft an MOU to just review and edit? Okay.
Right, next we on to 10.9, speed traffic all around.
So you talked about, Mr. Hill talked about the truck part. I have had several conversations with a lot of people in town, and I'm to the point where I think we should consider lowering all of the speed limits on all residential streets to 20 miles. Everything that we control. Everybody that I've talked to, I have not got anybody that said that's a terrible idea. I think there's enough science and enough other cities that have done it that can improve the public safety, the noise. There's so many benefits that come to it.
So like I'd have to drive 20 miles an hour all the way. Is that what you're saying?
I believe Graham just implemented this in the last year.
He did.
Yeah,
St. Paul does it too.
and they enforce it.
Not through
Yeah.
town.
Oh, through town. It's
Through town, too?
No,
I thought it was
I just
30.
drove through there and it's no.
Not on
Precedent.
107 in through town. I mean,
No,
you're-
107 is still.
Yeah.
It's a state highway state.
So
but don't they enforce the 20 miles on 107 in town?
I think it's
No.
still.
It's the street.
I was paying attention.
That's just.
That's
Back
what,
up Circle Drive and all that.
That's the first part of the parts that we control. And then I think for me, the second piece of that action plan would be to work with the county. and assess the rest of the routes of the state trunk highway system and county control roads from one end of town to the other and see what works best. Because I get a lot of complaints from people in Woodpecker Ridge that have to try to get out of their Woodpecker Ridge at 61. And the fact that somebody hasn't gotten stuck there, they have.
I got a speeding ticket there.
That's why we're looking at lighting.
So, and with development going up that way, but anyway, I figure with our neighborhood streets, it's something that we can control, and then the rest of it would be more of a county project, but that's my proposal.
Yeah.
Before we
It's like
go,
a garbage truckers.
I think there's other solutions too, though. I mean, the roundabouts are.
So,
I love
you know,
it.
since we took a public,
falling, it's terrible.
since we took a public survey about what time our meeting should be, we probably should get some public input before we change speed limits for 12
I
city.
think so too.
That's what I was gonna recommend, maybe we have a public, like an informal public meeting, not necessarily a council meeting, but like we've done in the other building.
Yeah, we did like a
Just to get together and just,
city meeting.
yep, come talk if you wanna talk about it, here's the idea.
What are your concerns?
The enforcement end of it has to be talked about too. I mean, we can do all the stop signs, we can do all the signage, we can do all the lowering and raising. You know, just do any good if people want to get away with it, they're gonna get away with it. I mean, there's a lot of them going down 10th Street that, you know, they drive a really nice speed. And then there's the next one that decides that they gotta see if they do 40 or 50.
This week, I've seen those.
Yeah.
No, man, I was slowing up. I was thinking maybe that's a good speed bump, maybe we need to put them all over, but.
The enforcement is a big part of me too. I am getting a lot of calls about Fifth Ave, Woodpecker Ridge, and even requests for putting up killer and play signs. If we can't figure out how to enforce it, or I think we need to have a soft plan there first, and then we get input from the public about what we're going to adopt.
I'm also not opposed to numbers, so it doesn't matter what we set, we can set the speed limit at 1 mile. We can first no patrolling and no, for that, but that's.
It doesn't matter any good.
The speed limit, a couple people that I've talked to in different towns, the speed limit getting set first helps kick the enforcement piece in. Because then you can go on an enforcement campaign, and if somebody is in a 20-mile-an-hour zone, and gets a ticket for speeding, it's a lot less friendly to your wallet than if it's a 30. So now you're 10 over if you get clocked at 30 and 20. It's gonna-
Well, there's some areas where they have schools that will do 2 different speed limits, one when children are present, a certain limit.
Right.
Or if a flashing light or a flashing sign is on, then you have to see a lowered speed. But I mean, there's a lot of things we can do, whether or not, without enforcement, it doesn't matter what we do.
Okay.
I like the idea though.
Yeah, it's a good idea. No, it's worth talking about.
I'll stick it out to pasture until we can have a police force that's gonna enforce our laws and ordinances for us.
I think,
Get citizen feedback though too. That helps. I mean, I know you got some, but
I would set a due date for when you want to see things done, so we don't kick it out faster forever.
I think that's a good idea, but if enforcement is gonna be the hangup, then that's a lot of conversations to try to how we're gonna fix the enforcement. That's my only with that.
Any further discussion on? Great, here you go, run for 10, 315 Main Street, update.
I let council know yesterday that we're hopeful that in the next 7 days, we should have the purchase agreement returned. And then council will have time to look at it and make any changes.
So I have some concerns. We just saw the purchase agreements. I wish it would have came to us before we sent it on to the developer. But there's a lot of things in there that seem so onerous that it's almost like it was written so that the project would fail. And that the city would get it back. I don't feel comfortable with that. If I was the developer, I wouldn't want to sign those things, to be honest. I think we definitely need to do a review on who's writing our purchase agreements. I don't like that. Should sit down and have a talk as soon as possible. So,
Well, when it comes back, it's gonna have their corrections on it anyway. And if they don't feel that that's a problem, it won't come back with that, showing that, so. I agree with you, that, maybe we need to look at a different vending to get it done.
I guess I don't know why it was for the lengths that it was. It basically should have been a quick claim deed with protection against environmental factors, and that's about it. The stuff that was added in there, we picked a choice that has a lot of different government agencies in it. And from our own experience, things can go from a month to 5 years. And now you're asking all those other government agencies to conform to what a little city says. And the state, feds, private organizations, they don't go by our. So the time restraints that are in there, maybe the start date is a great time. I don't know about the end date being real practical. But the other thing is that it seemed like it was written so that if anything changed outside of what was presented to the group, they would almost have to come back to council and ask for permission to change the color of the doors. There is no flexibility in there, and there's no part of my mind that thinks that this project is gonna go exactly how it was presented. There's gonna be little changes in order to conform around getting that project done. But are we gonna have every single one of those come back for our approval and then go out to another government agency for approval? Do we want this project to succeed, or do we want it to fail? Right now, it seems like the purchase agreement is set up so that it fits. That's my opinion. So if it comes back with a bunch of redlining, I wouldn't be surprised to see that. Again, I would not sign like what was presented, but this should have been presented to us first. And I'm kind of disappointed with the purchase agreement, so I think we have to review how those are getting written, who's writing them, and go from there. That makes sense.
Wood never said anything that he's seen that was ordinary, did he? Wood reviewed it, right?
It was originally written by
Yeah, yeah, right, I mean, so he originally wrote it, and he's.
But, Tabitha had mentioned they're not a, real estate attorney. So to that point,
But there are I'm really disappointed with what they wrote, and did they write the whole thing, or was it changed and expanded from where it was at? I mean, did everybody read the purchase agreement?
I looked it over.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
mile markers that have to be set right away. And a lot of risk to the developer. The developer is paying us $100,000. They have a financial interest not to fail. And we're really holding their toes to the fire here. I think there's maybe easier ways to do that through taxes, that gives them a little more flexibility. But this is a really scary project. It seems like we're changing the terms after we already proposed what we want. So I'm really leery of this agreement.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens when it comes back from the developer's attorney and see what happens at that point, and then we can make the correction still. If we want to list things up with change things still, then we would have that opportunity. For this probably has to go back to developer's attorney, but
What about the clawback? That's in there.
I don't know who added that in, but that doesn't seem like it was something that was ever discussed by us.
yeah, that's not a neighboring.
Yeah,
That is-
Buyer shall commence work on the improvements on or before July 15th, 26. Shall devote the real property to its intended use and shall devote the real property to its intended use by December 31st, 2028. If the buyer fails to commence work on time or fails to devote the real property to its intended use, or fails to devote the real property to its intended use on time, title to the real property shall revert to seller at seller's election, and in that event, buyer shall Promptly offer a deed to the real property seller on. I don't know how that got.
That was from the work group. I know there were several individuals that were very concerned that it came back if my memory serves at least.
Well, we just strike that out.
The key in that line, I think, is at the election of the city. So if there's 3 poles missing here, a whole group, and they go, well, we're not gonna finish it, but here you go, you can have it back. We do have the right to say no to that. Not to say that the same 5 people are gonna be sitting around the table and would make the same decision that we would make today. Not my personal ball's going at that,
But to that point, say it has to be changed or something's a little bit different than the original plan, it might not even be much. That would give the city an excuse to take it back. And I, as a developer, would be very scared of that for sure. That seems a little bit flexible. And again, I think there's maybe easier ways to do it through taxes, but again, they've already invested a lot of money. They're gonna be tied up with a lot of government agencies. You're not gonna want to fail on this, it can be a lot of money, maybe big trouble.
And a year and a half is a tight window for a project like this, especially if cash flow or, money markets change and they decide, well, maybe we're only going to do 2 of the 3 floors and push a floor off until 29 or 30 when we can cash flow it.
When there was requests for historic grants out of this one, correct? And with all the grant thing going on with all government and stuff, that might be kicked down the road a lot longer than that 5 years that's proposed. I mean, I really hope it's done in 3 years. That would be awesome. Or sooner, but
Well, it's a year and a half. That's all they have.
well, I thought it had to be started.
No, it has to start by July 15th of 2026. And it has to be devoted to its intended use by the December 31st of 2028.
Well, that's the worst. Already it's 31.
Yeah. That was my concern, is that do this kind of work and things can, change orders come fast, especially in an old building that we're trying to read out, like in 18 months is not a lot of time. That's just my opinion.
so I think I know, I want the developer to succeed. I want that building to not be a headache for the city anymore. I want it to serve our system greater. So I think whatever we can do to make that happen. True.
So just wait and see what his lawyer comes on back with.
I think that's the only thing you can't do right now.
Going forward, it'd be nice to see purchase agreements come to us first, before they go on. It's just kind of felt like a blind side with what was in there, based off of what was made up with things, so.
Make the motion for that, I think.
I don't know that we get to take action. Oops.
It's just a request, like that's.
Perfect. Any further discussion on the 3? Hearing none, I have 10.11, Thomas Park.
That's right. It's like I don't have it.
Right, so moving forward from our meeting.
It's what we discussed in our closed session meeting tonight.
So I can make a motion that we proceed with our title search for that property.
Tina, do I hear a second?
I second that.
Second by Dave. Any further discussion?
I guess my thought is that in the closed session, we get to talk about challenging it at the same time we're doing the title of the search. And so if we're only doing the title of the search, I feel like that we're not going through with it. We'll just take the vote, see what happens.
So could we do those as 2 separate things then? I mean, I guess we can, because I made a motion to do the title search. Very good. So then if you wanna,
Unless you want to just see what that states when it comes back and then move to.
I'm just saying if Kyle, yeah, because that's what I'm good with just seeing what the title search shows. But I don't mind if you make a motion after that saying to challenge it as well, but I just kind of want to see what the title search comes up with.
That's what I understood too, is that they're gonna challenge it. That's what we discussed. Getting the title search going so we can get a challenge at the same time to the same taxpayers. You know, parties involved, come to the table.
We amend your.
No, I'm
Let's
not,
take action on it and then I'll just.
yeah, right, that's, because I already made that motion, so.
So we've got a motion and a second to proceed with the title search.
Who was the second? Okay.
All those in favor, please remember saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you.
So I make a motion that we challenge the acceptance of Thomas Park because we don't have any resolution.
Second that one.
Second, Dave, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please remember by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next up is 10.12, scheduling of possibly closed session.
So I think we need to get some ideas. It sounds like we have a lot of old agreements coming out of the woodwork, so we could maybe clean up a little bit and get some action items on some open meetings and stuff once we come up with some solutions. So sounds like some of these items might even be kind of time sensitive, so.
I would agree with that.
Does anyone have time Friday to address some
Not
of
enough
these?
notice.
Right.
Oh,
No, 3 days.
yeah.
They are.
Like, I know my next week is pretty light, and I like these meetings being pushed out. That gives folks, well, I guess it's a whole session, so it doesn't have public there, so it doesn't really.
So Tuesday would be the soonest that we could do it. Is that right? Because the posting day would be tomorrow, Thursday. And Friday, Monday would be 3, Tuesday would be the meeting. That's Wednesday.
Tuesday and Wednesday are pretty open.
We've got a meeting at, say, or at 7 o'clock on Tuesday, at 7 o'clock on Wednesday, but I could meet prior to that.
Okay, are we looking at the 10th and 11th?
Yes.
Thanks, I guess.
If we did.
Morning. I work afternoons, both Tuesday and Wednesday,
Okay,
but I could attend remotely perhaps.
okay.
Maybe the meetings all day on Tuesday and Wednesday. If you're.
Oh, but could you save me?
Could you, what about like 5:30?
But did you say that she was tied up with him?
No, but she says she could
I could
possibly meet
attend
remotely.
remotely. It looks like, on Thursday, I'm 8 to 4. Otherwise, I have Monday off.
My Thursday is.
We have 3 days to post.
A day shift on Thursday. Otherwise, I don't mind attending remotely too, whatever.
You're able to attend 5:30 on Tuesday.
Yeah, a remote, I'd have to do remote.
That works for me. Thanks to that.
So,
Yeah, babysit my grandson, he's terror. Bring him with. We'll go faster.
Yeah, right.
so June 10th, 5:30.
Are you sure that's gonna work 3 days or?
Yeah,
10 to 5:30.
June 10th. Does
I'm okay.
that
I'm
give
excited.
like, well, because Kyle's 5:30 fine?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll get
And
that
we
posted.
won't meet over an hour.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Is this place available?
I was just looking at him.
Well, for closed session, you could even do it at your conference room if you wanted to.
We could, and then we would have a really good place for you to.
Yep.
Be on the camera or on the TV.
Yeah.
It's not open here, so we would have to do it at City Hall.
So I can start those.
closed session with the city hall.
My only other thought, because we kind of ran into that headache, this special council meeting, is can we add to the agenda that if we need another special council meeting, we can discuss that. Or we just have to delay it.
No, we could absolutely put that on the agenda. And if we decide we don't, then that's the discussion. We don't need it.
Makes sense. I think they have a fire as well.
Maybe they're just gosh, not 10, 12.
Okay, that sounds great, thank you.
On to new business. 11.1, 2024 audit update.
So I think I've updated all of you now that Burkhardt was here for 2 days and it went very well. They are gonna be working on a day to come present. Kind of mentioned that he'd prefer a daytime, but obviously we're gonna make it work for whatever. Oh, maybe I can have a daytime. So, but he will be presenting in person. And I don't have that date yet, but I'll let him know that the evening meeting would be preferable.
I just want to say thank you to everyone for all of the hard work that you put in over the last year. And the review that we've got back so far, it's from 1 year ago to now. It's so refreshing that you turn it in and it be the way that it's supposed to. So I just, good job. Yeah, on time, right.
Laura and Lori. And I can't remember, but my first budget meeting, we had the financials thrown at us and then they said, but none of these are really accurate, so. And I remember just flipping through pages going, wow.
It's nice to have confidence that we know where every penny is and that it's accounted for and it's accounted for properly. So thank you.
Right.
Oh, and then so moving forward are these resolutions I explained in the email that they are regarding this, so. Hopefully that all makes sense.
So just to clarify, we're taking money from our enterprise fund, put money back into cover the deficit of $2.5 million. What are we gonna do with that $2.5 million once we shift it into another account?
Well, it was explained in the resolution that we are gonna be setting up a payment plan. The finance director will do that. You will approve it. It can be, as Burkhardt explained, it can be, Nicole's already put together, she presented it last fall, I believe, was 3 different options, but it can be accommodated however we want. 50 years, 10 years, 30 years, repayment plan to ourselves. We're saving on the interest, we're repaying ourselves.
Yeah, I had, was it?
We're paying it back to our enterprise.
Correct.
But those projects were already paid for in cash, correct? So now we're shifting money from our enterprise funds into what fund?
Our street project deficit, or the deficit sits,
Even though we already paid for it in cash.
correct, but because of fund accounting, we pulled it from the street fund, which now has a deficit, so we have to figure out where we're gonna pull that money from. They do not recommend us forgiving it from our enterprise funds.
When we paid cash, that money was in the street fund originally, or?
We have pooled cash, so our cash is pooled, which is hard to explain to you guys, but we have pooled cash, which is shared upon all of our funds.
I guess the part I'm struggling with is I didn't think that when we paid cash for that street project, it came out of the street. I thought it came from, I'm gonna say non-designated fund balance, so we can get through around in all the times back then. It seems like we're replenishing that. We're replacing a street fund, but the other question I had is, at the time that we had that amount of money, we were being told by the state that we had too much money on hand. We need to start paying off some of our things in cash instead of taking out more
State
debt.
said that.
That was the discussion, so we started spending money like crazy back then.
Oh, I know. Spending money like crazy.
So are we gonna get into the same problem where the state's saying, hey, you got too much money on it, you got a high level of debt?
Well, I sure hope not.
Because the auditors telling us to do this, but it seems like it's in conflict with what we experienced not that long ago.
It's my understanding of, the enterprise funds, when we are borrowing money from, we aren't at that threshold, even with that money in there, you can have X number of days of operating budget in that fund. And we are not at, correct me if I'm wrong, but we are not at that threshold now with those funds in there. So we pulled that out of the piggy bank to pay for the road project, plus some money from the general fund. So we're now, pay back that enterprise fund, which would be updates to this work system.
And on that schedule that you presented last fall, was it over 20 years?
I think I did a 10-year, a 20-year, and a 30-year.
Again, I'm super confused because the money came out of undesignated fund balance to pay for the street project. Now we're pulling money out of the enterprise fund to put it into a street project that we were to pay for cash.
Right, but our fund was sitting with a deficit. So we have this $8 million. We spent $2.5 million, but it came out of our street project fund. And it was not bonded for, so we have to figure out what fund is gonna replenish that debt. So we have a gen fund, we have, EDA has 3 different funds, HRA has 3 different funds, we have water fund, sewer fund, liquor fund. Those 3 funds though are our enterprise funds and they're like, they get ran like a business.
And I get that. It seems like we spent more than $2.5 million though for.
Correct. We did, we spent 2.8 million, but you guys are forgiving 243, 685, 83, I believe.
I guess I'm just misunderstanding. At the time, we had the cash available, so now why do we have to replenish it?
The cash wasn't, correct me if I'm wrong, the cash wasn't available in our gen fund. It was available from the water and sewer payments in the enterprise fund. So we're borrowing, it's all in one piggy bank, but we're borrowing from the enterprise fund to pay back the deficit that was paid out for the road project.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Correct.
No, this doesn't make sense. It seems like, we had
Fund
money.
accounting 101.
I feel like if you took money from your 401k and spent it and then you paid yourself back, that's kind of,
Thankfully, this is interest free though. So.
yeah. It's still, it's your money, but yeah, if the 401k was interest free, which is,
It doesn't make any sense in my mind. It feels like we already had the money, spent the money. Now we're trying to replenish the undesignated fund balance, what it feels like by pulling it out of the enterprise fund, and we're gonna be adding money back to the enterprise fund.
Yes, we're paying back the enterprise fund because we're gonna borrow from that to cover the deficit.
So
I think that's the piece you're missing, is at a deficit. So we're gonna wash it out and then over time pay back the enterprise fund.
yeah, it still doesn't make any logical sense because it feels like we're gonna be putting ourselves back in the same place that we were a couple of years ago, where the state's gonna come in and say you have too much money on hand.
You obviously weren't around when the Butler Bob told us about the magic checkbook. I think that's what we're talking about here.
We spent down the budget at that time, because that's what we wanted to do. Now we're replenishing the fund. So, and now we're gonna increase taxes to, we'll probably have to increase taxes to pay back the enterprise.
Well, the funds have to be at such a height for us to qualify for certain bondings, right? And so it makes sense to pay it back.
The enterprise fund, the funds that were paid in from your water and sewer bill, not necessarily from your taxes where a bond payments typically come from.
Right.
and I know I had, at one point I had to calculate the amount of interest that we saved because I was trying to find a silver lining in this whole debacle. And it was significant.
It was very significant.
You know, so that's another savings that,
Yeah.
I think one,
Yeah.
three.
It was over $1 million we're saving because we borrowed from ourselves to pay this.
And I'm still angry about it.
right, I mean, it wasn't the plan, but here we are.
It's a pretty big silver line.
It still seems weird to borrow from ourselves at the rate that water rates are at, that we're increasing taxes to prove that.
It would have been bonded for with interest, and we'd be already levying for that as well, if that helps.
I really,
We saved a third of the cost of the project and so at least.
we're pulling money out of this fund. We want to loop the water line. We're gonna have enough money to loop the water lines. We're pulling out this much money.
Again, something not budgeted for. I want to point that out, completely not budgeted for. So here's a project that we're gonna be spending like $7,000 on. Not budgeted for, but we're pulling that out of our water fund, I believe is what you guys have decided to do.
Because it's a water system improvement, and we can pay for it then.
Correct, but again, not budgeted for, had we budgeted for it and prepared?
But I think, in all fairness, Nicole, as a council, if we sit up here and we're supposed to make sure that people are provided certain things. Public safety is the biggest thing. We're hearing that right now. Mr. Maury there with his water and sewer and stuff, we gotta make sure everything's working. If we have a failure up there, we're gonna be paying a hell of a lot more out of, $500,000 out of our pocket. That is gonna be catastrophic. And somebody could get hurt or somebody could even die because of it. And we can't afford to let that happen. So if we have to pay or pay down or borrow out of our funds, we have no choice.
On that water.
We have to do this, and we're gonna have to figure out a way when we go into budget to try to be a little tighter, to try to help with that situation, but
That's why we've been collecting rate increases over time for these enterprise funds, is to be able to make improvements and not have to tax people.
and this is a pretty serious, this is a mistake that previous councils made that we're stuck with. And we need to correct this one, and that water valve can't be turned on fast enough. I'm gonna do it right now. And just, your fire chief's here is not to tell, or not here to back me up, but it was really close to catastrophic when they had that major fire.
So I'm gonna make a motion to approve resolution 2025-19.
Right. First one goes there. This one is to get back $1 million, 1 million from water out of sewer. I'm working with Gina. Join your second.
Awesome.
Okay,
So I have a follow-up question for Nicole. So flat out, can we afford to do the water main loop out of the water enterprise fund if we do this transfer?
Yes.
That was painful, wasn't it?
That was.
That was very painful for her to say. That's why we appreciate her, so.
I don't, it's.
you've got a motion and a second to approve resolution 2025-19. As the system is waiting to vote. Dan? Gina?
Yes,
Dave?
Yes.
Kyle?
Yes.
I'm also a yes, that motion carries. All right, next up is 11.3. Sales.
This is the one to forgive. And this was kind of also recommended by Burkhart this was kind of a number he came up with that he seemed to think was acceptable to forgive. Does that seem like?
I think it was just the, above the 2 million. Makes the difference.
That was a simplified number.
This was money in Canada, correct? So I would like to make a motion to resolution 825-20.
I'll make that.
Dave? Do I hear a second?
aye.
Second for Gina. Any further discussion? No, this is a resolution, so it's a roll call vote. Dan?
Aye.
Gina?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Kyle?
Yes.
Simply yes, that motion carries. Next up is resolution 2025-21.
This is authorizing the borrowing of funds from water fund and sewer fund to cover a deficit in Fund 411 for the 2020 street project.
This was carried over from our 22 audits that was not addressed in 23 as well. That's fine,
I just love what we're taking care of business. But it's not ours.
We're gonna have to have a lot of closed session, fast students.
These comments be certain to someone like to make a motion to move for resolution 2025-21. Sir. And I hear a second.
I'll second.
Kyle. Vote. Dan. Gina?
Yeah.
Dave?
Yeah.
Kyle?
Yes.
Also vote yes, that motion carries. All right, let's move on to 11.5, internal control procedures policy.
So this is just another policy we're taking off our list that's been updated. I believe it hadn't been updated, or it was from 2008. So on your agenda, you'll find the original. And then a red line version, an updated version for the internal controls procedures policy.
I struggle with reading red, but there was one thing that I had questions about, and I know under the deputy clerk, you have HR responsibilities, but I'm not sure if I like the deputy clerk HR title in this policy. Because if we ever get to the point where we're annexing huge amounts of land and we end up with an HR specialist, is that gonna open up a gray area where they can review it? It'd be nice if the HR duties were under the deputy clerk as a job duty, and the title was deputy clerk as the VP.
That's thinking forward, you really thinking we're gonna get that big?
I just, I don't wanna be back in a couple of years trying to resolve an issue because somebody thinks that they have the ability to read something that they probably shouldn't be.
But it would probably get missed anyway, so it's probably a good idea for me to catch it.
I was gonna say that it's the duties, but technically fall under the deputy. It's fine to slash that HR specialist on there. Right now, it's going to the same person, but like you're saying, in the future, it might be the same person.
So at each note that has HR specialist, redline that.
Where it says deputy clerk / HR specialist, I would just leave it as deputy clerk since the HR duties are all under the deputy clerk right now.
Okay.
So is that your motion with that?
That would be my motion. That correction,
And approve it with that correction.
yes.
Okay.
I'll second Kyle's motion.
Kyle. Gina, any further discussion?
The only question that I have is the ATM at the liquor store. That's red line because we don't manage the cash like most of that doesn't.
We don't have the ATM there.
We have an ATM, but it's owned by someone else, yes. In the past, we owned the ATM, but we don't.
Okay.
Great, this does not need a roll call vote, correct?
This, yep, if you could just vote on, and approve the policy, updated policy.
All right, so we've got a motion. I'm on the second. Gina, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
And then another one we're taking off our policy list is the investment policy. So you'll see the original. And then the redlined version. And then the final one would just be the completely updated one without the red lines.
So I don't think this was in there, but, again, the same thing. If it's deputy clerk HR specialist, I don't know that was in there. I struggle with reading red.
So I just got when you say that, you are serious, like you struggle with reading red. I didn't catch that all first time. I get it now, yeah.
Reading the red lines.
I don't see it in there either.
Still, yeah, I did a search for egress.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Right. let's move on to the opinion polls.
So moved.
Kyle, do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second, any further discussion? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Right, next we'll go on to 11.7 mill and overlay project request for council action.
Wait, a long time.
But you were going,
We should have bumped you up, huh?
Do you have any questions at all? Yes. We talked about this at Public Works and it's recognition and stuff.
Public Works recommendation is go with these three, was not what we could get on. And they weren't firm figures anyway, they were just,
No,
they were just estimates, so we have no idea. It's, he's $150,000 and so we know where the limit is.
Good, come back to council with that. Yes.
I think we directed you to take the worst ones, or the one that you think most necessarily needs to get done.
That fit in the budget.
Fit in the budget, yeah, that fit in the budget. It's-
The only question that I have is, do we want to put any qualifications in the bid process this time? Like we had talked about, because we have to by law take low bid, we can qualify what we're looking for in the work as a contractor. Or do we just send out the bid? Go with the flow?
And we had as many problems with mill and overlay as we had with, road reconstruction.
Just say mill and overlays, just we can take the machine and choose up the top layer. Still,
Well, this, yeah, it's gonna be a reclaim, so we'll take the whole section of them. Shape that thing.
So I agree with what you're saying, but I don't know that
This is it.
one is.
And we'll have most likely two bids. There's
Two people that do it.
Do it, and they're both good. They're both, they're reputable. And we'll have SEH involved in the spec, so.
Thanks for bringing that up toward the end.
Oh, yeah.
Was there any, is there any of these ones that we're gonna take, and we didn't talk about this at Public Works, but I thought about it afterwards, I thought, was there any curbing or sewer or water, you know, not sewer, but storm drain covers or something that's broken in that area that maybe it could be put into as part of the bid, or is that not advised there?
The curbing's not terrible. That would be about the only thing that would be affected by this.
I was looking at the different ones.
Yeah,
I didn't look at them individually, but
both, or all three, no storm sewer. Although if there is water main storm,
yeah, I wasn't, I shouldn't have said water mains. I was thinking of storm.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it right away, but
and the curbing, I think will, you know, that would be the only question. Possibly we'd have to maybe replace a section or something if it gets damaged.
so I said if we were bid that, if we each can write that in there. If, and when you, after you look at it, and you just determine which ones we should even think about.
Yeah, yeah, no, I took that all into account.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And Greg will be looking at it also. So. For the specs.
Because you probably get your best price doing it that way instead of doing measurement.
And that will be, you know, that'll come to the best council and get the bids back. Hey, we're gonna have to replace 40 feet of curb on 6th Avenue. So it's gonna cost us.
Well, there's a separate budget line for that too, so.
There is for curb and gutter, but I think we maybe try to encompass it.
Into the middle of it, yeah. I understand.
I think we're gonna be plenty good on the budget, so.
Okay.
I would just like to say again, another year over year, it's nice that we have this in front of us this year. We're gonna use the money as allocated and not use it as the piggy bank to pay for everything else. So thank you.
Thank you.
So you need action.
I just need a motion to move forward.
So I make a motion to move forward with this project.
I second that.
Rafael. Second, Dave. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Lori. All right, we can move on to 13, financial report, planning for 13.1, year-to-date revenue looks down.
I really got into this thing. I got my highlighter out.
I did too. So on my desk.
I think I get a new one. It's starting to get kind of late. When does LGA come in? That was one of my questions I was trying to, when does that come in? Because I know we got some cuts coming this next year.
It might not.
I mean, we're discussing it. I don't think a decision's been made.
There's some pretty,
I thought this year we were going to get it, it's next year that might affect.
It would be next year. This year there's gonna be like a 3% cut. 26,000 or something, wasn't it on ours?
I know they were doing the 3% for the county. Was it for the cities as well?
I thought I read something online that it was 26,000 per
Well,
month.
we received a percentage.
Yeah.
We got a percentage of it early, because I was confused at why we got a portion of it, and I want to say we got like 3% of it. Remember, we got the deposit, and there was a percent that came in saying that they were sending out early.
9% was paid on March 20th, 40% will be paid on July 20th, and then the remaining 50 will be paid on December
You're
26th
looking at what was in the receipt for it.
on their website.
Yeah, they're payable.
Because
Projection.
I voted for the receipt.
Okay, so then the 40% comes in July. Okay.
I did have, there was a couple that goes, on cable TV fees, on the revenue part. I thought we made a deal on it. It's line.
That's the East Central Cable Commission.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's, okay, I know. Now I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, I was gonna say you got the season there. Yeah, that was it. But then under miscellaneous revenues, I had the question I had was on the money in there at the 3,300 or whatever. it is.
Quite a bit that came in for, I believe, scrap metal stuff from 315.
That's what I put a note here. That's what I thought it was. I was just wondering,
And I can get you a breakdown if you want to see the breakdown.
No, that's fine. I was guessing that's what it was. I was just curious what it was. What we sold, because I know the truck is down on here, but that's on a different line. So I knew it wasn't that. I just wondered what else we sold. Now it makes sense because you had the garage sales. Maybe we're cash flowing over there yet. Okay.
So.
The gas bill wasn't so high anyway. I thought that was great.
Thank you, Jason.
Yes.
Any further questions for expense report?
So I like these, so I really do on this quarterly. I get the other ones. It's kind of fun.
Next is 13.2, 2025 APR capacity investments. Comments, concerns?
So this is something new, because as I was going through our investment policy, I saw that it states that this was given to council and something we have not been doing. So I did get with Marcy and just said that I provide you this. This is just a spreadsheet I put together when I get ready to do bank rec. And I don't know if you guys want like a summary explaining like what happens with the CDs for the month. Or if you want a quarterly update.
Well, she's already putting this together during the bank rec, so I figured it was easy for just this to be added monthly because it explains the rate, which CD it is, the value. So she's already doing this, so it's fantastic.
I mean, I like the formatted, so. it's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, don't go any extra.
well,
But I think monthly is nice.
is it possible to break out? I know that cash is pooled, but can we break out which cash fund owns each investment? Like these belong to EDA, these belong.
That's not how it works.
Okay.
It's pooled, so
It's just there.
I could give you the fund, like the monthly bank rec gives the totals of each fund and how much money is sitting in each fund. If that's what you want to look at.
I wasn't necessarily thinking for me as proactively thinking of maybe some questions that might come from some of the committees about this in particular. I was doing the reason I was asking. It's great.
Rec itself actually gives the fund breakdown. It gives you the amount, so it would match the dollar amount that's at the bottom of your spreadsheet there. So then you can actually see which fund is holding which amounts. I don't know. Again, it could be something if you requested from Marcy and she wants me to give you a copy of that, or
So some of these look like they mature this year.
correct. Quite a few have matured in the last month. So a bunch of these are callable too. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with callables. It's branding for me. But let's go down. And so we had quite a few that there was 4 in like the last 30 days that became callable. And so that they put it back in our money market, and then RBC actually does the work for us, and they keep an eye open for the best ones that pop up. And then they reach out to me, and then I get with Marcy sometimes, and I say, hey, there's this, or other times it's I need to know your answer now. If you want this now, we take it now, because they go so fast. I was on the phone with her, was it 2 weeks ago? And we were getting ready to lock one in, and she said, nope, we gotta take it, so we'll have to keep our eye open. Like,
So is the automatic go-to to just reinvest it into a CD?
yep.
So what are we using this money for? Is it eventually for some kind of rainy day fund when everything goes wrong, we have this available?
So it's pooled, so this is included in our cash balance at the end of the day, this is pooled in there. So if we ever get to the point, we would have to cash these out and make it liquid cash.
For the cash.
So right now, they're building interest for us.
I know, but is it gonna be one of those things where it's building interest and making cash for us forever? Or do we ever have any plan to use this? Because it seems like we have a lot of things that are springing up on us, and we're either gonna have to increase taxes quite a bit, or we're gonna have to find other avenues to inject some money.
That's how I think about it too. Like personally, in my finances, I have investments in my own portfolio, and if I don't have the cash to cover, I have to sell some of my investments in my portfolio to cover. So that's kind of how I interpret this as well.
Yeah.
Yes, we do other nonprofits. We keep some money in the CD because we're probably not going to need that money this year, so we're going to grow some interest on it. If we did need it, yeah, there's a fee, take it out, from the fees. Based on the biggest year's interest, so it's.
And that's why we have it laddered too. So we try to keep it so that there's only 2 or 3 or 3 each year, so that they're laddering, they mature. So in case we do need it, I mean, we don't have to keep on doing it. I have been, haven't needed it.
I guess it'd be nice to look at it when we come budget time. But we've been talking about a number of capital items that we're pushing that can down the road. It's only getting more and more expensive. We can grow the money all day long, but I think we're seriously gonna be facing a pretty significant tax increase in the very near future. If not this year, then it's gonna be next year. To be honest, stuff is just given out.
That's gonna depend on what we get for grants and stuff from the federal government, who knows what anybody's gonna get from the federal and state government next 2 years. You can figure that out. I want you helping me with my finances. But it's gonna be really tough. Is there something when the audit is explained to us that they can tell us what levels of cash and what levels of funds that we need to have?
They do that.
Average, I know they do that, but is he gonna do that this time?
Yep.
Because it would be important to see how much of this cash that you're talking about, Nicole, he thinks we should keep on hand or have on because it affects our bond ratings. I know that.
CD, affect our bond rating?
Well, the city cash, what we have for available cash. Yeah, that affects us. So
It'd be really nice to get on a cycle with our equipment, even just thinking about public works, to get it on something where we can map out that for 10 or 15 years and not be reacting to stuff just falling apart and finding financing. I would like to look at some of these as an opportunity to get us on track with this thing.
well, I think we've waiting here with the offices and then go into budget with that same attitude that we got, here's what we got, but this is what we have to have. If we're gonna maintain that.
I have a hard time with the audit because it seems like we want to pool a ton of money and keep increasing taxes without ever investing back in it. So.
But you're gonna have a hard time getting me to say we need to. Better not touch the cash, because we have other implications that look great, and I don't think we need any more issues.
Well, And it depends, like, to your point, and I am certainly not the one to be discussing budgets, but if because you can't balance your budget for expenses that are going to always be there with savings, you have to balance that with income that keeps coming, so,
Your revenue's good.
yeah.
So that was the one thing that they kind of hammered into our head of balance to trade.
Right, that's,
Was, don't use a one-time payment to balance your budget, whatever you do.
that's what I keep thinking of with that, it's like you said, more of a rainy day fund.
I still don't know that taking on more debt and increasing taxes is a sustainable option. We're getting away from FICO stuff and being reactive. We need to get on balance. And I'm not saying that I want to drain the account, but we need to get to somewhere where we can sustain ourselves, because a 50% tax increase is not sustainable. And that's, I think, very much what we're looking at this. We can cut all we want, but unfortunately, stuff just doesn't get cheap.
The proper values are gonna downswing this cycle too.
Yours, mine weren't.
The other thing, the other thing to keep in mind is I think about 40% of the city is untaxable because it's either government, churches, schools, or tax abatement properties. At some point, you're gonna tax your residents for out of the city. They'll have a big pool of cash not going there, but nobody will feel for it.
Even the tax abatement people have to pay taxes, it's just not at the increased rate, that's all. And in a lot of these places that we're getting that, they'd probably be just like the one sitting over there at 315, we're not getting anything out of that.
That's a good point, yeah.
That's my
And
opinion.
the tax
I mean,
abatement isn't.
I didn't like it years ago, I hated tax
Sellers
rates.
who,
But
you
I
know,
think
they're
it
the
has a
one.
point, that place.
Yeah, but the ones that we do have given the tax abatement, we weren't
We're getting a
getting,
lot
we
of
weren't
money.
getting anything anyway,
No.
so now we are.
It has a place if it's done properly.
Yes, correct.
And we have to keep our hands and just, and not get so excited about, oh, we're gonna get another building. Well, yeah, well, maybe it won't be so good. But I think the ones that we've done seem to be working out. God bless them.
But I agree, supplement as much as we can,
Yeah.
keeping
Mhm.
cash balance up to need. If it's time, it's time.
Yeah, Kyle, the federal government's been in a debt for how many years? Thank you.
I think if we're counting on grants with the current administration, we're gonna be waiting on a long time.
Oh, yeah.
All the process is going. It's kind of a sink or swim, and it's on our shoulders to figure out options. We can't rely on other people at this point.
Well, we hope we get the grants we need for the ponds. That's what I Go.
Today.
All right, so let's move on to.
But that's like, I still like you.
14.1 and something for reviewing from C.
Yeah, I was hoping maybe by the middle June meeting or July meeting that we could have current CVs for us to review that are in place.
During my time frame, I can do that. I don't know what's out there from there.
Just
Try to do.
your time frame. So maybe with some of the more current projects in the last year or two.
Would that go to planning first?
No, it's for council to review on an annual basis.
They're all-
We have to do that in closed session since it has to do with agreements.
Don't think so.
Other public agreement.
Yeah, the CUPs were brought before planning in the open meeting.
It's public. I got one from 83, if you want to see it. I'll make sure she gets it. Yeah, I'm gonna get you a copy.
They can remove that and deny.
No, I'll tap this current ones in Dave's.
Dave, 1983.
Denied.
Oh.
No, I was given.
Don't bring it up to 14.2 alfresco dining.
Well, I can take care of 14.2 and 14.3. We talked about that in Public Works, so I think, we're gonna bring it back to Public Works and look at it because I think there's some safety issues. I've gotten complaints from constituents that I get documentation, I can provide to the council if they should see it. And I will when we get to that point, of people that have said they've had trouble navigating certain areas. And I still like it. I think it's a good avenue for the businesses to expand their business and out in the public, but we were real friendly and we still need to be friendly, but we need to be friendly with a little bit of restrictions. We need to rein in on the protection and the safety part of it, so.
There's a couple of things where I can think of that there's al fresco dining, is it actually makes it easier to see around corners because there's not vehicles in some cases.
That's right.
So it seems like that adds a safety component, but the other factor is, I think we just have to look at parking on the opposite side.
Right.
We talked about a small town community, looking at bringing in people and having an asset and stuff. And that is a valuable asset to the community. It kind of adds a little bit extra. So it's kind of full parking spot, sacrifice that.
I have a different opinion and it's not popular. I think it was a product of COVID. I think it's time to evaluate. Do you keep it or not?
If there's, I would say that I think there's one business in town in particular that I won't name, but I think that especially in the weekends in the summertime, their outdoor patios full, you can barely find a seat. So I think if that wasn't enough, then that's going to dramatically impact their business. So that's to keep mindful of that too, I think is.
Well, I think it has a good place in our town. I think we've got a lot of, and I think there's gonna be probably some need or wants to expand. We've already got one request, I know it's in the fight, for the town, but the parking is, we need to look at the parking plans and stuff. But it was like last Friday night at Art in the Park, we went there and parked around the back side of the park. There was places, people come and go. As many people as there was downtown. I was surprised how well traffic moved. It did seem to be a real big problem.
I love what Al Fresco has done for our little downtown. I think it's made it vibrant. And well, I've seen people pull into our docks, come into town, mull around, get back on the boat. It's been really fun to watch. So I hope we can figure it out so that we can stay safe and still experience that.
Well, that's my whole goal with this. It isn't to shut anybody down. It's just that we did it to help these people. And I think it did help these businesses. But we have to look at the total picture, and safety is the key. And whether they have to make a little move or change things just a little bit so that we can achieve that isn't asking that much.
not sure they necessarily get the desired results if you want to wait from it. If you set up cars parking there and they maybe sticking out, there's probably space. We
Well,
also have people who are.
you've got that everywhere now. I mean, people who start between cars and stuff. I mean, that's just defensive driving. I mean, that's just what we do. You get no points from State Farm. I know that if you hit somebody. So,
Probably we're still bringing back for possibilities.
yeah, we're gonna be working on it. That was on the list and it's gonna stay there.
Can we, put smoking on there? That's smoking enforcement.
Well, that was brought to my attention too. They said, well, can you give us more room to get wheelchairs through, but can you stop them from smoking? I don't go there, so I don't know that they're smoking. And I haven't personally witnessed anybody smoking at Pizza Pub or any of the other places. I do witness people standing outside of one certain tavern downtown smoking. I don't know about the 320 per, I don't know what they allow, what they don't allow.
I'm not gonna stand behind this device, and I think if you post it, it's supposed to be, you're not to smoke there.
Yeah.
You can't.
I don't think there's any place in smoking.
It's like the fairgrounds,
Like
like
that,
It's not a bad idea. It goes back to the speed,
Yeah, person.
yeah, how do we enforce that?
right, do you have anything?
no, I'm good.
The truck routes?
The truck routes, I talked about that too, and that's going back to Public Works again too. But some more ideas and I've got some documentation here that I'm gonna be bringing back and other people are too. And we're gonna look at, because I think there's no sense in reinventing the wheel. What's worked well for other towns that are similar in size should work for us. They're similar.
I want to go back to smoking too, like to your point, if you did post it, if it was posted where it's not allowed. And because there's a fine that's attached to it, we had very good success with that when those that were smoking read that like, ooh, I can get that fine, that they're like, not doing that again, just that it's real.
Deterrent.
Yeah,
I do like the truck route thing, sorry.
it's okay.
Is there gonna be some kind of policy that trucks can get permission to go through those areas?
Well, there has to be allowable uses. You have a concrete truck because you're pouring a new driveway, he's got to get through. I mean, or you ain't gonna get your concrete. I mean, there's gonna be exceptions, and I don't think it's gonna be anything that we really have to get too enforceable about. I think they'll obey it if it says no trucks allowed. When I drove truck, our company policies, I worked for Lana Lakes, and it was if you disobeyed signs, you could get fired. And most companies are that way. So these guys are gonna obey a lot of it just because of what their company policies are, not because of what we write.
Well, the other thing that it does is most trucking and logistics companies run on, it's all computer stuff now. So it'll be entered into like the Waze and the Maps programs where it won't allow them to pull that as a route.
The UPS doesn't get left turns or
Right.
left turns or whatever.
But what I was told by different places was, they don't get so hung up on the truck route. You have posted, because you need to post it, that needs to be part of your ordinance. But you need to put signs in the areas you don't want them to go to. You put that sign there that says no trucks allowed, that goes a lot farther, and I can't remember the exact verbiage, but it isn't very much, it's about trucks not being allowed on these streets. And you hit the main ones, that's gonna stop a lot of it, and they'll start getting used to going around. Hopefully.
Right, any further follow-up on that? Right, this will be.
So moved.
I'll second.
Sure, Dan, second, Kyle, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's good.
Did you want to post it?